All right. Thank you very much for joining the Old Speedway City Neighborhood Association for our October general meeting. We invited State Representative Renee Pack to come talk to us about the redistricting, especially since that is a topic that we are probably very interested in, especially with the election coming this year on November 8th. And so she's going to come explain it, and then we'll maybe have some more information about voter registration and also about our election coming on the 8th. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. First, I want to say good evening to everyone, and I just so appreciate you all inviting me, and feel free at any time that you have any events where you might need some extra information that I have. Don't hesitate to call, because if I'm free, you know, they say I'm just like the water company, I'll come running, okay? So today, we're going to talk a little bit about redistricting, and I made a joke about it 101 because it took me a while to figure all this out too. I'm in my first term. So you all bear with me. I'm going to share the information that I have, and I think it'll give you a really, really good overview of what we're working with here with redistricting, especially with the Speedway area. Oh, my turn. Okay, just a little bit of background about me, and you all might already know. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. My father was active duty Army, and my mom was a military wife. So during childhood, I was only in Nashville for just a few months, and then we ended up traveling, living all over the country, including Alaska, Germany, Texas, Missouri, Kentucky, New Jersey. So we were kind of bopping around, and through that, I didn't know this was happening at the time, but I was learning how to be adaptable. I was learning how to get along with all kinds of people, because you know, in the military, our soldiers would go off and they would get married and bring, you know, wives and different cultures from all over the world. So from the very beginning, I had a good handle on the fact that people are people are people. And we have the same basic needs, each of us. So, you know, I learned that early on, and that's one of the reasons why I love the diversity of this whole, not just the Speedway community, but the West Side and Claremont that I also am representing at the State House. I think we're going in the right direction. I'm a military veteran myself. My dad passed away in 1981, just 2 years after he retired at the age of 41 from a stroke. I've missed him ever since. I think I needed my dad more as an adult than I ever did as a child. I really, as an adult woman, I needed my father there. So that was extremely difficult. But I wanted to carry on his legacy. You see, I was 23 years old. My life was just kind of bobbled up, not going anywhere. I was back in Tennessee living with my mom. I had a little girl at that time, 3 years old. And I just wanted something that was going to be meaningful. So I was watching this movie one night. It was Patty, I don't know if you all might be too young for Patty Duke, but she played a military pilot. And I said, that's it. I'm going to sign up for the Army tomorrow. And that's exactly what I did. And I said, I took my father's name back, because I had been married for a short time before that. I took my father's name back, Turner, and it was to honor him. So went into the military, worked as a behavioral science specialist, mostly in psychology, community mental health. When the Gulf War started, I'm a Gulf War veteran, wartime veteran. When the Gulf War started, we began getting so many soldiers back stateside. And not only were they suffering from injuries to their body, which was awful, but they were also suffering psychological injuries. And that's what I was focused on during that time, working in the medical holding company. And of course, since then, Vietnam War, you name it, we still have soldiers suffering, all kinds of military personnel suffering. And that's one of the things I'm really zeroed in on to help. I was elected in 2020. My predecessor was Carly Macer, who is a friend of mine. We live in the same neighborhood. And back in 2014, I ran for trustee against Andy Harris. Is that funny? No, I ran against Andy, and we ran an awesome campaign, not to have any experience or anything. And I always throw this in. He won, but only by 400 votes. I was on his heels. And that's the thing about the way we should move through this political world is, even if we're on opposing sides as far as parties, if we win fair and square. If we lose fair and square. We do the right thing, and we congratulate one another for a great race. And that's what me and Andy did, and we still have contact even today with his work at food pantries and stuff like that. Ranking minority leader of the State Committee on Veteran Affairs and Public Safety, so I'm able to make a lot of decisions based on what I know about veterans, and also our firefighters, and also our police officers. We had 2 years ago in session House Bill 1006, which covered, kind of led us with some new guidelines for police officers. And that bill passed at 100% of the House and 100% of the Senate. And that is proof that we can work together from each side of the aisle and come together with some wonderful, great legislation. And from what I hear from police officers, they're glad. They don't mind. Good cops don't mind wearing a body cam. They don't mind because they know they're doing the right thing. You know, if somebody takes it off, then you kind of wonder about it. But it was just good policy to not only cover our folks out there who may be breaking the law, but also covers our police officers, and that's very, very important. Okay, my assistant did my little thing today. I went in there and changed a little bit, but I think he's got the right idea. We want to start with what exactly is redistricting? Why do we do it? Who's in charge of performing redistricting? House District 95, of course, I'm 92, so when John gets here, I'll have to let him know about that. How does this affect you? And of course, questions at the end. What is redistricting? Every 10 years, after our census information is in and calculated, it's time for not just state legislators to figure out the redistricting maps, but also the national maps are redistricted and moved around. One thing significant, and we'll get to that for Speedway, for our District 92, we went up north. We went up north around the Pike area, Eagle Creek area, and kind of took off a little bit of that northwestern tip there. So that was the main difference for us. Speedway, I represented Speedway before. I'll still represent Speedway today. Most of Wayne Township. So we didn't get the real hardcore changes as some of our counties did. And it's a process. And I'll talk about that too. It's a process. Like I said, we're redrawing the state legislative line. So we're going to tell folks that this is the area, this is the district that you voted in. Even if you were over here and voting in another district at the last election, we have the power, and the power comes from the most dominant party in the House, of course. We have the power to just redistrict you and put you over here. And what happens is they do it, and it's not always in good faith. Of course, the dominating party wants to do things that favor them, right? Now, 2010, Democrats were in charge. They did the same thing. But 2020 came and Republicans were in charge. And then we were mad, about the fact that they were redistricting in their interests. But we did the same thing in 2010. So that's just kind of how it is down there at that State House. The process occurs, as I said, every 10 years. And it's used by Indiana. It's governed by the United States Constitution, but also the state constitution and applicable laws. Why do we do it? We do it because things change. We'll see a slide about that. Our demographics are different than they were 10 years ago. And we'll have some clear-cut numbers for you here in a minute. But our districts will gain residents, will lose residents. There's going to be a difference in the demographics when it comes to race. It's going to be a difference when it comes to people of age versus folks that are younger. So the numbers really tell us a lot. That's why it's so important to fill out that census form. Make sure you get that in every 10 years because everything comes based off of that. And you'll see how many more residents we have too in this district compared to 2010. So I thought that was interesting. And it's supposed to, the redistricting is supposed to ensure each district has the same number of people and that districts are reflective and representative of the electorate. Does it happen all the time? No, it does not. But ideally, that's what we want. Opposition. I don't know if you all remember back in August or so, well, over the summer, there was a lot of opposition from lots of groups. I just picked out the League of Women Voters about the redistricting. You all know what gerrymandering is? Anybody? Yeah. And then when the district maps came out, our Hoosiers detected a lot of that gerrymandering, and you can tell. And it happened in 2010 too, but you can tell when you just go down one street and up the other one just to grab that certain population right there. You know, that's gerrymandering. You know, don't try to sugarcoat that. That's what that is. But it's all to benefit candidates that are in those communities. There was a case down, I don't know if you all know, there's a representative, his name is John Jacob. And his friend was Representative Nicely, both Republicans. And they were big advocates for, you know, pro-choice, not even pro-choice, just all the way no abortions. Not pro-choice, pro-life. And they didn't get along with the party, with the Republican Party. So the Republican Party told them they couldn't caucus with them. And they didn't really want them this election. So they fixed, this is one case where our Republican friends redistrict in favor against their own that were there in favor of who they wanted to be there. So it's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of games and things that are above my head, but I just thought that was so interesting. You all are going to use this time to get your own out, but that's what happened. They have a strong, really good candidate now, but all's fair at the State House. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not what we want. And I say that, but I love serving. I do. I love serving. I love doing this. I like being right in front of voters. I like knocking on doors. I might be stopping by your house pretty soon, or some of my folks. So y'all just be looking for that. I've got clear-cut maps and ways that I want to get into the community. And I do not only door knock on my Democratic friends' doors. I copy everybody, independent and Republican, because you know what? At the end of the day, I got to represent everybody, right? I don't just represent this little group here or that. I have to represent everybody, and I'm proud to do so. Most states, the state legislature draws lines both for the legislature and for the state's congressional delegation. So so at the same time we're doing the national redistricting, we're doing the state redistricting. Now specifically in Indiana, okay, we approved our maps October 1st. In Indiana, the state legislature is responsible for drawing both congressional and state legislative district lines. That's how it is here. And they must approve the plan by the close of the first legislative session occurring after completion of the United States Census. So we went back into session this summer to talk about this, and we argued back and forth, and you know, nobody was quite getting along, but that's all a part of the process too, is really going at it and trying to get our ideas across, and then finding a way to come up with that compromise. That's so important. what does this mean specifically for our district? What are the numbers? What are we talking about here? Let's take a look. Okay, you can see before, we're still in the 2010 redistricting. Up until November 8th, after that November 8th election, we moved from this to this, okay? So right now, you all got that cut. Let's see, we've got that cut right up here. We don't go any further, it's just a little bit of Eagle Creek. But after the first of the year, we'll move to this, which, to tell you the truth, it's not a whole lot of extra residents, but they are residents that vote. That's another thing. They are residents that actually vote. So we've got Speedway right there, closed in the heart of things. I lost a little bit right here. What street is that? 65. I lost a little bit right up here in the northwest, but other than that, I am pretty much the same. We didn't get affected too much. I lost that Mickleyville area down by Rockville 465, and we kept the Bridgeport area. Speedway, like I said, had that little bitty change. Now, before I had, I'm trying to see the streets, I had this corner, this little diamond, and now it looks like it's come out, down, and across. Can y'all recognize those streets? I cannot see them. Because this is probably Raceway, all right?
Yeah, because that's the county line.
South, north, 465. And then 465 and 74 in there is kind of cut out and out of my district. But funny thing, I lived in Farley Addition for years. I even lived here in Speedway in 1991. I just got out of the military. And moved here because my mom was here. And the only people that would take me for an apartment was Copper Tree. And so I was a single mom back then, so I moved myself and my kids into Copper Tree. But you all will get a version of this presentation so you can look at it. But yeah, that's a lot up there.
Can I just say it kind of looks like a person singing into a microphone?
Huh?
The shape just looks like a person singing into a microphone.
Oh, I thought you were telling me to talk in the microphone.
No, I just think that's what it kind of looks like to me.
Yeah, but you know, the area got bigger and so did our numbers,
Okay.
our residents. Let's look. Okay, this is District 7, so now we're talking about a congressional map. Okay, so this is where we're at now. After November 8th or January 1st officially, we will be, District 7 will look like this. Still all-encompassing Speedway. Oh, Claremont. And wait a minute, who's you all have a different congressman than we do. We're Carson.
Yeah, it's Carson.
Okay.
Wow.
Indiana, and we're in District 7. So that's how it's looking. That's how it's looking for next year. For the next 10 years. This is how it's going to be for 10 years. That's why it's so important to do these things really fairly and accurately. Okay, back in 2010, let's look at our demographics here. Population of 92 was 64, almost 65,000. Now we have, what is that, almost 4,500 people? More? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it's that extra we're getting up there in Pike Township, or our residents staying, our families moving in, you know.
About 2,000.
Wow.
Right.
Really?
Speedway went up about 2,000. Right.
Well, most of that's y'all. 2,000, oh my gosh. Well, it's a very appealing place to live. It really is. So where we were as far as our race numbers, we had 66% white, and now we have 49% white. So we have less white residents in our district now. 20% black back then, but now there's an increase of black residents. It's up to 30%. Small increase for Hispanics, and we don't have a very big Asian population at all. Just 2% then, 2% now. And I don't know the explanation for those numbers. I don't know if maybe white people decided to move away or go west or, retire out or what. But it's just interesting to look at the numbers. I know for black people, they have been moving out to our portion of the west side. A lot of folks are looking for something better than East Indianapolis. And so they're moving out here, and I can tell that through our school system, that's the case. And I know you all have that diversity in Speedway schools now too, don't you? Yeah, awesome. Okay, 2020, and every 10 years we know that we're going to have the U.S. Census conducted. In 2021, which was my first legislative session, we were gathering the information based on the census. Hi, John. Based on the census numbers. We went October 1st, we went back into session to take a look at maps, to vote on maps, to approve maps. And of course, on October 4th of 21, Governor Holcomb signed those maps into law. And like I said, it was 100% Republican yes for the maps, and then the Democrats were opposing with no's. But it's very hard in our the House of Representatives. We have 71 state reps in the House that are Republican compared to 29. So we don't get much done unless we just really come together and collaborate. And that's why you have to learn how to do that, because end of the day, we got to help Hoosiers, no matter what. So that's a great challenge, and I believe really that's one of the reasons the Lord has me there, is because I do have a gift of compromise while still maintaining, some of those fundamental beliefs of my own. And we can do that. We can do that. On the Senate side, we have 39 and 11. So it's still, really, really lopsided there. And that makes a difference in the legislation that's passed. It makes a difference because, we have certain fundamental beliefs on one side and also on the other. But what I've learned is we got some good folks on the Democrat side of the aisle and on the Republican side. My chairman of military affairs, Representative Fry, has just become one of my best friends in the House. He respects me. He takes my bills very seriously, and he supports me on every hand. And we work very well together in veteran affairs and public safety. So that's just a little about redistricting. But the other message I want to bring maybe isn't related to redistricting, but it's to let you all know that I'm very proud to represent you. It means the world to me. I never thought I'd get here. I never saw this coming, ever. I'm a mom of 4, a wife. I've been an educator for 24 years. Before that, I was in one job, a lot of hardships, a lot of different things coming our way through the years. But there was always in the back of my mind the spirit I wanted to help others. And that's what I did. I just started helping in schools, in the community, just being a set of hands and a voice. And that led to someone saying, you should run for office because you're authentic, real. And I did, just to tell you how I got in on to what made me run in 2020, because after 2014, when Andy beat me, I didn't want nothing to do with any of this running for any office whatsoever. I was done. And then December of 19, I went out to dinner. Me and Carly went out to Rick's. And she said, Renee, I think I'm going to retire. I said, girl, what are you going to said, I don't know, you got any ideas? I said, well, let me think about it for a little while. And she said, Renee, really? I'm thinking about you. And I was like, wow. And I took a couple days, talked to my husband about it, and it was a really rough time because we were going through the pandemic at that time. So campaigning during a pandemic is very challenging, but I appreciate you all. Are there any questions?
So I got a couple on that. How has it been different coming, I mean, all of actually this because we just talked about, how has it been different for you to, run when we are, post-COVID? Or how has that been changed from when you ran in 2000 to now?
Oh, tremendous differences. We couldn't even do door-to-door in 2020. And that's a big part of our campaigning, is being there and talking to voters on their turf. None of that. So we used the phone a lot. We used, would call our constituents or future constituents. We used more mail-outs. You had to just get really, really creative. Zoom. You remember the age of Zoom? Everything was on Zoom. We sent out videos via social media to different groups, and we just had to do the best that we could. I did a lot of correspondence. I like to write real notes and send them out. And I didn't have an opponent in the primary that year. And then when the date came in July 6th, I'll never forget it, because it's the last day for filing, nobody filed. So I won, like, without any competition. It's like, whoa, but I didn't let up. I still did the same things I did before the primary, because you can't take anything for granted. And I do have an opponent this time too, but we're just pressing on and doing that hard work, doing that heart work also. For our constituents. So this time it's like we're free as a bird. We can talk, we can shake hands, we can give hugs, we can just really have good exchanges with all that over our heads concerning the COVID and getting each other sick, or, looking at people after they sneeze, like, how we used to do. Yes.
Carla had a goal when she took office, and that's why she ran. Do you have a goal? The person's military, I know, benefits of some kind, and you're military, so.
Veteran affairs are dear to my heart. I come from a big military family, and I'm honorary chair of Reach Across America, which is a fundraiser that we do every year for our public safety and veteran families. We're able to fundraise and purchase $15 wreaths to have a big ceremony and recognize them right around Christmas time. I'm also Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs Commissioner. So we're doing a lot of work there. We're trying to get people help that need help. Our veterans are not in good shape. They are sick, and I mean they're not getting cared for medically the way they should. I believe they should be priority, especially if it's a service-related sickness or injury. They need their meds for the more psychiatric issues. So we've got a long way to go, but we're going to keep fighting for our veterans. I have goals as far as literacy. We've got to get our kids reading. I taught reading second, third, and fourth grade back in the early 2000s. And literacy unlocks the world for our kids. Now, going a little bit further west where I live off 21st and Country Club. Our Wayne Township read scores were very discouraging. They were very low. And we know that by third grade, a child has to know how to read. Third grade, am I right, sister teacher? Yeah. Yeah, but most of our kids don't. They don't read by third grade. And then you throw in a pandemic, and for these kids right now, a pandemic, a year online, some kids can handle it perfectly, but others struggle. We have kids, even high schoolers who I work with now, I worked elementary before, they didn't open a Chromebook that whole time. So you're coming back after a year and a half of learning loss. And right now, we're really focusing on, I'm at high school, so I'm focusing on seniors. I supervise a group called, a team called Level Up, and that's our main focus, is to guide our youngsters who are credit deficient so that they can graduate. Yeah. By third grade, I like what she said, you should know how to read by third. But the reality is they don't. So.
I have a question for you. Being on the Public Safety Committee, what do you see as the most impending challenge for police? Because I know the police is always in the news, and from that standpoint.
I think the biggest challenge for police officers, and so many of them will say the same thing, because they want to be welcomed in the neighborhoods, they want to be friendly, they want to help people, and we still have trusting issues. Police residents, maybe further than Speedway, still, and the far west side, still don't really trust officers. I was on a panel last week over the 9th grade center, and on the panel was myself, and then Commander Lorenzo Lewis, and from Pike, and then one of our district equity experts. And we asked for questions at the end. A little black kid on this side said, we were talking about bias, implicit bias. He said, but I can't help it. How can I not be biased? They killed my father. What are you going to say to a kid? And I'm pretty sure probably it was force that was needed. But for a kid, they don't see that. They just see, they killed my dad, my uncle, my brother. And so that's the hardest thing, is we've got to get that trust built so that we can have that community connection with all our residents. So for you all, probably for me too, if I get pulled over, I'm good. You know, I got my license, got my registration, insurance. I'm glad it was a day where I didn't have all that, but I'm really proud that I can just be pulled over and I'm good. But the ones that are pulled over and that maybe don't have that up-to-date registration or something else, insurance, they're scared to death, you know, because, and don't let there be a warrant out there. They're going down. They're going downtown. So, anyway.
They should have insurance. They should. I mean, you know, that's like the kid in third grade that can't read. They should.
There's a lot of
You got to say, well, I know, but you got to start focusing on the family. I mean, why is a third grader not able to read if he's got a mom or dad? Maybe they don't have a mom and dad at home, but somebody in the family's got to help that child.
And then you throw the other obstacles too, not to say you're wrong whatsoever, but, you know, we have, that we report on, it's like 18% displacement for our families. So they're homeless. This is reality. We caught a family in our district living in this storage area. And since they couldn't afford rent, they bought a storage area and they're living there. This is the reality of what's happening with our kids. So yes, that's right. They should have those things. Insurance, registration, all those are law-abiding rules. But it doesn't always happen like that. So, you know, they do suffer the consequences, and they very well should.
So I did have a question, guys.
Oh, no, I'm going to get her back here.
Please do something. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing up the literacy rate, something that's just recently been put on my radar, and I agree that we can't progress as a state at that reading level. We will never have enough talent in this state to fill the jobs, much less recruit the talent we need. But do you think that the schools are capable of increasing that literacy rate, or are there other groups that really have the tools to help? Sorry.
Our teachers are excellent. I know the teachers I work for are excellent, they're strong, they keep up, they're training. But I don't know if we can turn it around anytime soon. Just to be real, we can improve along the way. But to get this issue to a place where we can move forward for years and years and years in the future with educated, well-educated kids and adults,
Yeah, it's a good question, but the reality is maybe not. Maybe not. And then you got to think of education. Who's valuing education? When I've got parents sometimes, our parents sometimes are just at BD in the dean's office in trouble, So when they are talking about education, a lot of times they're like, I didn't do well back in the day. They don't value it as much as maybe others do. And that's really important because parents, like you said, have to value education for their kids to want to do well in education.
That should be the focus.
On the parents, and yes, it should be. It's harder at times than others to get that focus on parents.
The more you focus it, the more you get focused.
Yeah. Well, I think it boils down to money. Because, I mean, Speedway does well because, we have referendums and we, approve those referendums and allow us to have small class sizes, which gives more of a one-on-one, focus, on those kids that need help. And also gives, a chance for the teachers that lead those that are, above average and challenge those at the same time. So, I think if you put it out there, from a public standpoint, allow those opportunities and saying, here, we need it because of this. So you can increase the number of teachers, increase the educational time, and, really make an impact on those kids. I don't think it's a magic thing.
It's not, and it's going to take some time to really recover. And it is hard, and, I've been at this for years now. I'm retired this year. I laid it all on the table. I gave everything I had for almost 25 years, and it's just time to move on to that next stage of life. But I know we worked hard to do what we could for the kids.
Yeah.
So, and I had 4 myself, and even in the roughest of rough times, I always was pushing, education, and really staying on them. There was a period where me and my kids, I might have shared this before, were homeless. We got evicted from Copper Tree because it's not funny, but we got evicted. I was a single mom working at a hotel downtown, just out of the military, not even making $5.50 an hour. And I knew when I got there, it probably wasn't enough, but I had to get my kids inside somewhere. And I scraped together and made it for almost a year, but I didn't quite make it. We were in the car for weeks. We were in the car. But that sense of resilience never really died in me. We were still reading in the car. And we were still doing all kinds of schoolwork in the car. Stopping in hotel lobbies and all of this. But, I'm so proud to say, and thankful to God to say that those 4 kids that I raised, each one of them has a master's degree. So that's the difference in valuing and really pushing education in the hardest of circumstances and not. So, and that's not the norm. That's not the norm. I feel extremely blessed about that. But we're okay now with the house and everything. Got a house and all. But it just goes to show sometimes we have those struggles along the way. And I count it as part of me being here where I am. I understand. I get it. I get it. Been there. I am you. John.
I was just going to talk about a program that we have in elementary schools in your district. I don't need to talk about open meeting, but it can be a private conversation.
Okay. All right. Yeah, host, I used to teach that too.
Yeah.
It's a reading program.
Yeah.
You can.
Someone had asked too, because you brought it up earlier, with redistricting, how do you get the information about your constituents? Because now you're going to have a whole new chunk of people. Like, are you just going through with people registering to vote and going through their voting registration? Like, how do you know?
Know who I'm getting?
Yeah, who are you getting?
Well, you want to take that area and you have people like my assistant John and other folks that can get a idea of who's there through, we have what's called a band. And in that band, we can tell who's there, ages, if they're registered voters.
Okay.
We can tell ages, we can tell party affiliation, what else can we get? Addresses, of course.
But don't you also get demographic information from the U.S. Census too?
And we get,
Like how much the income is?
and that's something we could have talked about today too,
Right,
is income.
income levels, yeah.
Yeah, because we have quite a bit of poverty
Right.
to bless us.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Right, but, you know, we do have people that can gather that information, and even my executive director, she could go into that van, and I told her, like, Caitlin, I need doors to knock on registered voters in Lakeland Heights. It's a mobile home park, 55 and over. And she can just get it printed out for me. It's just, you know, if you're registered, we can get to know you, we can come to your door, we can send you a letter, we can whatever, so, yeah.
So then what's the challenge of how to get to voters who haven't registered or maybe who have moved around, or just, how do you get to people?
That's hard. I know a lot of people that move around, they still go back and vote where they were before, especially if their license hasn't changed.
Okay.
They will go back, but we don't want that. We want you to be registered wherever you are. And now, if they're really ticked off about this redistricting and what happened to them in the redistricting, they're not going to change right away. They might wait a little while, but I work at the high school, and I am focusing on these 18-year-olds. Seniors are 18 years old, or turning 18 soon, and I've got a little contest going with every senior who I send a link to that gets registered to vote. We've had really, really good outcomes. So you have to be creative in that too. We have, when we do events, we have a registration table. Guess what? The people that go to those events, they're registered. So, yeah, but we really push that. I have a lot of information I send out for, on social media to just kind of get people in and letting parents know, you all have kids that can be registered voters. They have a voice. And their voice is the same as mine or yours. One vote, one voice. And so, yeah, we're doing what we can to register voters. And is there always something more? Sure.
So either as a concerned citizen or sitting in the chamber yourself, what do you expect in the upcoming session?
I expect we're going to go back to...
I found this on the web.
Sorry.
You already had the answer.
Siri wanted to answer for you. I'd rather hear you.
Oh, she probably has a better answer than me.
I doubt it.
Going back, I'm expecting us to revisit the abortion ban, which has been, the ban has been lifted temporarily or until there's more action in the courts. I expect us to go back to some, deal with some housing issues. There are a lot of homeless folks out there. We've got, I had the, just tell this little story. Do you all have a meeting after this too? Okay, I'll be fast. But there's this little area, mobile home park, right across the street from this track. Eldale or something. Yes, and I had, last November, one of the WRTV reporters was out there because the owner had all of a sudden said, everybody's got to go in 30 days. They were flipping out. They didn't know where to go. Many of them had been in there for years and years and years. Just a little humble, little dwelling place. But it was theirs. And they felt like they should. It wasn't because they were behind on rent or anything, or mortgage, or whatever they paid for their mobile homes. But it was because the owner and the family were having issues, and they wanted everybody out of there. So Sean and I, my husband and I, after church that Sunday, we drove over there. Just wanted to talk to residents, see where they were. And they were so desperate. They really were falling apart. 30 days to, you know how much it costs to move, number one. Those mobile homes were not in shape to move. Legally, you couldn't even move them to another location. So we sat out on the porch, talked to several of them. I even visited them in their homes. They're funny. They're just like so sweet. And then I walk in there and all the Trump signs and all this stuff in the house. And I still walk right on in there. But they were so kind and sweet, and they just wanted some help. So that I told them I would see what I could do through the AG's office, Attorney General's office. Which the next day, I wrote a letter to the Attorney General, Todd Rokita, and his staff did the research, and it's totally illegal to put someone out of their home after 30 days. They should have 6 months, 180 days to prepare for a move. And we didn't know that, they didn't know that, but it took his assistant researching that. That's why I say, Todd Roki's not all that. Todd Rokita helped those people that day. He really did. It touched his heart. And he was willing to get his staff on board to help with that situation. And it was such a great feeling to call them up and tell them, you can stay right there in your homes. You don't have to worry about moving. November was right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. It just would have been a terrible situation. But that I was so happy to be able to let them know you do not have to go, thanks to the work of our AG's office. And they're still there now. I don't know if the family just dropped it or what, but as far as I know, they're still there. What was the other part? What were we talking about? Did you have another part?
There was a question, just like how do you get in touch, how do you, now that you've redistricted and you have this new bunch of people, like how do you get in touch with them?
Oh, okay, that was through all the other techniques we use and data and the van, which is very, very helpful.
So
Whatever it takes.
In redistricting, we got 69 roughly thousand. And the idea is that all the districts will roughly have the same, around that number.
That's the objective.
And there, how many districts is in Indiana?
How many districts we go up to 100?
Is it 100 districts?
Yeah. Starting up in the north region,
Yeah.
all the way down. So, yeah. And we're at 92, so we're up to the end.
Yeah, I have a goes to Nairo, and then ends up in Indianapolis.
Yeah, we're great. I appreciate you. I got a little bit of information back there on myself, and I'd be remiss if I didn't throw in a shameless plug. I'd appreciate your vote on November 8th. I really would. Yes, John.
Everyone could, I have a sign-in sheet back here. If you could put they ask for your name.
We don't have one back there?
They do not.
Well, it's for,
They have it.
it's for actual, but you can share that.
So this one's for the Indiana House Democratic Caucus. We put out weekly newsletters, Representative Pack does, and you guys can receive the information in your email.
That's right. We always got something cooking.
Yep.
What's going on right now, the big thing is getting these bills together. Anybody got some good legislative ideas? Y'all call me up, we'll see what we can do.
How can we get more road money?
Y'all just got some money.
No. 85% of our money goes to public safety. That leaves.
85 for you all in
Yes,
Speedway?
Yes.
Wow. So does the road money come from Indy?
Road money comes from Indy, correct. And that's not even, we usually have to pitch in for all the main thoroughfares. But really, that budget has been shrinking year after year because, and Dan Parker knows, he's faced with the same thing.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's been promoted and everything.
That's a different job.
Yeah, different job. But anyway, that's a big challenge, especially for the city of Indianapolis and surrounding towns, is the fact that lane miles determine, basically what our funds are going to be. And if you get a 4-lane road, you get 1 mile, one lane out of that. So our funds, as, more people come through Crawfordsville Road, 10th Street, we got a lot of major thoroughfares going down there. Well, we got to be able to take care of them. And it's been more and more of a challenge. And that leaves less funds for taking care of all the side streets. And in Indianapolis, that's why they have almost gravel roads in some places. And it's a big challenge.
Are you all still going forward with that project on Crawfordsville?
That's on a public safety, increase the safety.
Yeah. Is that
Yes.
going down?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You get that, John?
Yes.
We call the council.
Yep.
See what our next steps is. It might take legislation.
I think it takes the job, and then you're fighting against all the rural communities, because then.
Well, they're so jealous of us.
I know they are, but yeah.
Yeah, but.
Well, tell them to give us some road in my house.
Yeah. And then, there's just, the town of Speedway, we make a lot of money off tourists. you know, that come here. We want everything to be beautiful and to
Yeah,
be nice.
but most of the money goes down to CIB.
Where does that money go?
CIB.
To CIB?
Yep, yeah.
All the profits?
Yeah, no, we don't get any back for us, the sales tax and all the liquor, any of the hotel tax, all that goes downtown. We don't get any of that back.
That's because we're part of Unica.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
Because the deal was made with, he must have paid off the $100 million bonds.
Oh,
So,
that deal.
yeah.
Well, we had to talk, this is a deeper conversation, I don't know all this stuff. Thank you, we've got to know, we'll check, if you don't mind, we'll check tomorrow.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all make it so easy. Every time I look out, there's a smiling face, I love it.
If members are interested, or if you guys would like me to stay for our general meeting, it's really, really great.
Of course.
Carly and I do good friends.
Oh, really? I think she's in Hawaii now. Take care. See y'all later.
Good to see you, always. We have our son in our yard.
Thank you so much. How are you? I appreciate that. You got it up already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
10 years from years ago or something. I don't know when. I expect her office when she's going to stay.
I wish more people would hold on to it.
I have a lot of mine.
I still have my college sign. You still If you all want to support, just reach out to me and I'd love to come by for a sign in your work. Yes, thank you so much. Bye, Michelle, see you soon. All right. Thank you.
Yes, and your keys, because you're not going to be able to leave.
I would go anywhere, would I?
I might have to ask you, especially as a teacher, I'd love to see who our state representative for my school is and see if they can't come talk to my
Sure.
students.
Let me know the address and I'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, we love school visits.
I know. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much. I was going to do this really quickly, since it is like a general meeting. We haven't had one in a while. The only thing I just maybe wanted to remind you guys is that we do have our 2 more programs going in November and December. We also are going to have, for the information that we got tonight, our newsletter should be coming out in October. And then just the big thing is that we are looking to start our 2023 membership drive. So those are like the things that we are going to be focusing on for the rest of the school, I almost said the rest of the school year, but no, the rest of the year. If everybody really quickly can look back onto our August meetings, there is enough here that we could do a vote. Just to know too, unfortunately for November, which is still pending, and December, we will not have our choir holiday program, so we are looking to see about finding someone else to perform for our December meeting. But if you can very quickly look over those, and if I can have a vote, I'd really appreciate that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Thank you. All those who approve the meetings as listed, say aye. Any opposed? No. And I do know that our bank balance has not changed for the past couple of months, so it is pretty much at the same. And that's the other thing to look at, is if there's any community project ideas for this, finishing up this year or looking into next year. We'd love to have some ideas. I know that there's just a lot of things happening this in the month of October, so please check our Town of Speedway Facebook, but also check our Facebook on Old Speedway City Neighborhood Association, because we always try to post all those interesting things. And lastly, and I try to keep on coming back to this, but the last day to register to vote in Indiana is October 11th. So if you want to vote on November 8th, make sure that you are registered to vote. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.